Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here and welcome to the next live stream that we have. It's currently Easter Friday and it's falling on an April, so this is the April live stream. I do hope that you have a good feast ahead of you and some nice days, which most of you probably will spend with the family, at least those that celebrate Easter. And in case you were traveling, I hope that you will be able to catch the live stream anyway, because I know that there's a lot of people traveling these days. From my side on this spot, I would like to highlight again, please let me know if there is anything wrong with the video or the audio. There is one important bit which I have to mention, and that is I am currently looking for a new internet provider, which you think might not have necessarily something to do with this live stream. But yeah, unfortunately, what I have seen lately was that the internet speed was going rapidly down from my current provider, even though I have paid for a certain amount of data. Then unfortunately, when I started to measure it, because I've noticed something's off, I have seen that they are delivering, in fact, less than half of what I am paying for. So that's not exactly great. Therefore, I was looking for a new one, and I'm currently waiting for the new provider to install the new net here. But until then, hopefully, we will still be able to get through this live stream without any bigger hiccups. And that means also, I hope that you will not have like any time lags, too many time lags, and I hope that the audio and video will be fine for you. In case you also spot something maybe where the audio is a little bit too high, let me know and I will just adjust the volume. I'm trying to do that anyway, but still let me know. We do have today a couple of videos which I'm going to play, so I will have to adjust that volume on those videos anyway. So I'm hoping that it will be fine for you as well. So yeah, that would be the start of the stream from my side. Again, for those of you who are not aware, in case you notice here some pets like having zoomies and running around, that's normal in this household, okay? So please bear with me and, just ignore the pets if they have some zoomies here, so just FYI. But I have to keep the door a little bit ajar behind me, so that's the standard information at the beginning of the stream, because you never know. I had already some interesting recordings when I was recording the vids where I had to basically interrupt the recording, and it was just too much. It was like a galloping herd of huge animals. At least that's how it sounded, and it was just two cats. But yeah, happens. Good. So that's for the start. We do have a couple of topics, mainly the two that I have already, shown on the thumbnail. One of the first ones is the Witcher 1 remake. I will play one video from Wes Nemo, who has a very good take and a very, very good summary on what has been happening with the Witcher 1 remake, because the information is kind of scattered all over the net, and also some of the information is, I believe, coming from, the last time they had a meeting, CDPR had a meeting with their stakeholders. So some of it is coming from that one. And I do think he did a very good summary. So I'm going to play that video, but this is not about just, playing a video and watching it together, but I would like to, highlight some things that I have noticed and discuss maybe with you a little bit what's currently going on. And also some of the reactions like below the video from the people that have posted comments there might be interesting. Then the second topic that we have is Nintendo and the price increase for Nintendo. We have just not so long ago discussed a different price increase that we currently have seen, where we are expecting, for example, GTA to be costing almost $100 or $100 plus maybe. So it was always a big question mark. Yes, it's a big game. It was a long time in development. And we do know that it has a big fan base. So we did discuss last time on the stream this one. And who would have thought that just 1 month later, we will be discussing again a price increase, this time for Nintendo. So let me go through that topic as well. And I can see Louis is here. Evening. Apparently, I'm not that late. No, because I was a little bit late, to be honest. But yeah, I'm taking it a little bit laid back to tonight. It's Easter Friday. And I think there were still a couple of people that were traveling. So yeah, just nice to see you here and nice to see that you have managed. I have just introduced the 2 main topics which were on the thumbnail. And then I have seen, but I have only seen it yesterday in the evening, and I will be honest, I didn't really have the time yet to go through it, but there is also another video that was posted by the makers of Exodus, so by Archetype Entertainment, and they have posted a April Q&A. I think it has like 15 minutes and it's full with information, but happily I found the information, let's say, concentrated and put together by Shinobi on X. So he's always making very good summaries of vids or news that are posted. So I'm going to show you that one as well at the end of the stream. And how's the weather in your homeland? Over here, it's like the British Isles. Exactly. So I was looking forward for 4 days with nice weather. There is a ton of work in our garden, and I was looking forward finally to do that because I think the grass is already somewhere here. In my case, I'm a relatively short person and it's looking really awful. And I can't do anything because, like you're saying as well here, it's looking like in the British Isles, it's raining now for 2.5, almost 3 days already in a row. And it doesn't really look so great as well for tomorrow. So yeah, and finally when the weather will be nice, the grass will be still wet. So I doubt that I will be able to do much. So yeah, I'm not so fond of the weather, honestly. And I think also most of the people that were looking forward to the holidays, they were hoping for some nice weather because most of the people like go out with the families and with the kids, etc., etc. So yeah, it's not so great. Yeah, likewise with the gardens and stuff. Yeah, that's the problem. So normally you don't have during the week that much time, and you are telling, okay, now let's do it over the weekend, and then weekend looks like this. Yeah, not really so great. Yeah, so, but I'm hoping that I will be able to do at least something like in the house. I honestly have to say I have also some family members who are sick. So for those of you who don't know, I am taking care of my 2 elderly sick parents. They have like, one of them has an onset of Parkinson's, the other onset of Alzheimer's. I think I've mentioned it already somewhere, but just FYI. And currently they have both bronchitis. So it's really awful because they are not really able to do basically anything. So that is like on top of all of the stuff that I have to do. I have to take care of them, unfortunately, now a little bit more than I'm used to. So it's taking away some of the time. So yeah, at least I hope that I will be able to do something here inside the house if I can do it, outside in the garden. So yeah. Well, yeah, it's a little bit more time, at least like for other stuff. So I can always use the time in a manner. So yeah. I was watching my brother-in-law playing football in regional league, and it was a miserable experience. And a very cold emoji. That's from Louis. Yeah, I am not sure if I would want to be outside doing some sports, honestly. Because, that's how my parents actually got sick. They were a little bit outside, just in some t-shirts because the sun was shining for a few days, but the wind was very, very cold, and now they are sick, unfortunately. Yeah, they're old people, so they get sick a little bit faster, but still, yeah. You have my sympathy with the parents. My dad has Parkinson's, and it's not great. Yeah, I will have to say, thankfully, it's just at the beginning. So I can see already some shaking and, some negative impacts on, his perception. And my mom as well, like she's forgetting stuff. And I think what happens with them is both these sicknesses, they do change a little bit the character I'm not sure if I'm putting it right, but you see that like their demeanor and their character is a little bit changing over time as, you know, the sickness progresses. So I am starting to see some of these changes as well. So yeah, what can you do? I mean, I as long as I can, I would like to spend some time with them, and as long as they are here. So yeah, they have other, let's say, illnesses as well. So it's a combo of a lot of things, and it's not so great. But as long as they are, let's say, still more or less there with their mind, I would like to use the time and be with them. So yeah. And bronchitis sucks. Yeah, you don't have to tell me that. It's crap. Yeah, and they currently they are quite weak. But yeah, let's stop with the negative stuff. we do have some topics, some gaming topics ahead of us, so I would prefer rather to talk about those, and maybe we can go back again to some private stuff at the end of the stream. But for the moment, Witcher 1, and I will be switching the screen. I hope you will be able to see what I've prepared. So this is the screen that I have prepared. That's from Wes Nemo, as I mentioned. So he's having a good summary about the Witcher 1. Yeah, it's really just one thing, and especially if people are getting older. Yeah. Good, so let's go to the Witcher 1 remake summary, which he has made. I will play the video, and then I will just maybe stop in on certain spots, and we can discuss what your take is on that, because there were a couple of things when I was looking at the vid that popped up in my mind that I would like to mention. Let me just put on my headset. And let me play it. And if the audio is not good, let me know, please, if it's too loud or too quiet or something. So I'm going to switch then. I hope you can see and hear it.
Worked some amazing magic with their Witcher trilogy, and with the Witcher 4 officially in development, a lot of fans are eager to get their hands on whatever Witcher related content they can in the meantime. There's been a lot of talk about the confirmed remake of the first Witcher game, and I personally can't wait to see what the team is cooking up with that reimagining of where everything started. Now recently, CDPR held an investors meeting where we got some pretty interesting details about the Witcher 1 remake, including an update on the game's development and the highly anticipated release date. So today we're going to go over everything we know so far about the Witcher 1 remake, including gameplay overhauls, release dates, and a lot more. We have a lot to cover, so check the video chapters for easy viewing. Also, don't forget to enter the PS5 giveaway.
Okay, yeah, one thing which I have to say right at the start, to be honest. When I hear reimagining, I am a little bit skeptical, to be honest. I know that this is not a remaster, so they are definitely going to change some stuff. There was already some discussion on what exactly they are going to change, although it's currently just rumors at this point. But we all know that what they mean is probably, you know, those 6 cards that you had in The Witcher 1 and some other stuff, because it's currently being adjusted for the modern audience. And whenever I hear this term, yeah, I am not really so fond of that, to be honest. So let's go through what he has to say. I will just keep here the other stuff that's not related to the Witcher 1 remake.
So let's first talk about the development. The Witcher 1 remake will not actually be developed in-house by CD Projekt Red. Instead, it's being worked on by a studio called Fool's Theory under the close supervision of CDPR. Fool's Theory is a relatively new studio, but its CEO is actually a former CDPR developer who worked on both The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3. So they absolutely have some experienced minds leading the project. And again, CDPR is going to be supervising the entire thing. So it's not like the remake is going to be shipped out to a random studio with no connection to the original trilogy. In The Witcher 1
I will stop here again. That's exactly what I'm a tiny bit afraid of, because you do have, let me just switch so I can see your comments. You do have a studio that is having former CDPR people and people who have been formerly working on The Witcher. I have actually prepared, a little bit about them. So if we look about who's Fool's Theory, they have on their page that they are a collective of experienced and creative developers. They have already some games here mentioned, which they were working on. Also, the people working in the studio have been working, for example, on Baldur's Gate 3 and some other, let's say, big name games. And if we look at the team, who's at the team, then yes, the CEO has been working on The Witcher 2 and Witcher 3. And also here I have from Games Radar a let's say small summary of who these people are. And it's also mentioned here that there are a lot of people who have been working, for example, on Divinity Original Sin with Larian, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, Outriders, etc. So yes, those people are very experienced. It is a different studio than CDPR. But what I am a little bit afraid of is exactly this oversight by CDPR, because there was a lot of discussion about CDPR being now quite woke and not anymore the studio that we knew. And I think that's really what's currently happening. You can see also for Witcher 4, there is already something where, in my opinion, there are quite a few red flags popping up from what we have seen and what we have heard so far about The Witcher 4. And let's say my expectations are at this point very low, so I'm not exactly hyped for the game. I'm still looking forward. Let's see what it will be about. Maybe it will be perfectly fine and it will be great. Maybe the red flags will yield, let's say, the expected result currently as I have at this point, because they do remind me a lot of former BioWare, now Zombieware. And I just do hope that the CDPR will not become a zombie PR, to be honest. So yeah, there are people who have been working on renowned games and people who have been working on Witcher 2 and Witcher 3. But CDPR has that oversight, of course, logically, but yeah. And that means also they are in the end going to decide what's going to stay in the game and what has to go or what has to be remade. So that's a little bit my where I'm afraid of what's going to happen with the remake, to be honest. Louis is writing, doesn't that sound similar to the Demon Soul remaster? It was a different studio that created a beautiful graphics overhaul, but a lot of the visual identity was misunderstood and reimagined in a detrimental way, and they had the gall to say that they made a game that FromSoft always wanted to make. Yeah, that's one of the other things which I'm a little bit afraid of. I mean, they are working on the remake in Unreal Engine 5. And we are going to hear from Vesnemo that they had to actually do some adjustments to the engine to, let's say, get this CDPR feel, this old Witcher feel. So let's go through the video. He's going to mention that. So from a graphical point of view, I don't think that it will be, let's say, much different than it was, let's say, in The Witcher 3. I believe it will keep, let's say, those visuals. Question is how the facial expressions will be in Unreal Engine 5. I have noticed some of the games that are made with Unreal Engine have some kind of I don't want to say uncanny valley facial expressions, but they feel a bit weird and a little bit off in certain spaces. And the original engine, Red Engine by CDPR, was awesome, and it was really perfect in The Witcher 3. I think it was perfected. So it will be also something that we are probably going to compare between the original Witcher series and the original Witcher 1, of course, and the new one, the remake. But I'm not so much afraid, to be honest, regarding the graphics, as in terms of, like I said, like what they are going to change, what they are going to remove or add to the game. Here they will probably have more oversight. It's not some giant corporation forcing the remake, maybe. I don't know, if you look at the current CDPR, like who's behind the company, they do have some new investors, and I would already consider them to be a part of a giant corporation. So even though the Fool's Fury company, which is a relatively small studio, is working on the game, again, CDPR will have the oversight. So I don't know. I'm skeptical after, especially like the last year with Zombieware and companies like that. I am just skeptical at this point. So let's go back to the video and let's watch a little bit more from the vid.
Remake was announced with Fool's Theory running the project. There was some concerns, but those were quickly dispelled after the fact that, you know, the CEO worked on the previous Witcher games, and Fool's Theory has already worked on some pretty well-known
but it doesn't necessarily
like
mean anything.
3. It's also been confirmed that the remake is being developed on a modified version of Unreal Engine 5, which is still currently in development by the main CDPR team with the help of Epic Games. Now, Unreal Engine 5 is one of the most well-known and developer-friendly engines on the market right now, technical issues notwithstanding. So the remake should look absolutely amazing and hopefully do a great job of bringing the original game's dark, gritty atmosphere to a new generation. There's been a bit of confusion as to how far along the Witcher remake is in development, but not too long ago, CDPR actually gave us an update on where everything is at. Now, during their quarterly earnings call a few weeks ago, CDPR confirmed that the Witcher 1 remake is in early development and is still several years away from completion, but the
yeah, and that's where I want to stop it again. Let me just switch so I can see your comments. Hi, John. John has just popped in. That's great to see you here as well. So my concern is they have announced the remake already quite some time ago. And now, I think it was 2022, so already 3 years ago by now, or 2.5 at least. And now they are saying it's still in early stages of development, so it's taking a very long time until like we get the game. And a lot can happen in the meantime. So I am also a little bit wary about something like this, where a game has been already announced. It's nice to know that they are working on it, but it's still a ways off, and I just wonder why they have announced it so soon. They could have like kept it secret for a little bit longer. I don't know. I mean, after 3 years or 2.5 years since we know that the game is in development, we still get to hear it's in early stages. It's kind of weird. So yeah. Louis is saying a healthy dose of skepticism is warranted, yeah, especially in these days. And John is writing, yeah, I don't feel that Unreal is great face animations better than Frostbite, though. Absolutely, Frostbite is absolutely crappy in that regard. I agree with you here on that one. So yeah, and they mentioned already, or Wes has mentioned already, that they are actually working with a modified version of Unreal Engine 5. And I keep remembering there was somebody mentioned that from the studio that they cannot. I'm not sure if they cannot use the Red Engine anymore, like to the full extent, because it requires, let's say, a lot of people who have knowledge about that engine. A lot of the people who had the knowledge has left the studio, so there are only few people who can work still with the engine. And I do believe because they want to, let's say, expand the studio and hire like more people from the outside. That's the same with Fool's Fury, who is developing the remake. I think they are now working with the Unreal Engine because of that, because it's for most of the developers that are coming from different studios, probably easier to work with Unreal Engine than to use a completely different and unknown to them, unknown engine like the Red Engine. So yeah, at least it's good to hear that they are like working on a modified version. So they are trying, in my opinion, I can see that as something positive. They are trying to, make sure that they come very close to the output that the Red Engine was providing in the previous Witcher games. At least for me, it's like a positive thing at this time.
Reasoning was pretty interesting. CDPR has stated that they are making a ton of technical advancements for The Witcher 4, and they're working closely with Fool's Theory to implement those advancements in The Witcher 1 remake as well. So the two projects are kind of being worked on alongside one another. It was confirmed during the investors meeting
benefit
that a
from each other.
Fool's Theory team has been temporarily assigned to The Witcher 4, which will allow for CDPR to refine development pipelines and asset creation workflows, all with the goal of streamlining the production while also preparing Fool's Theory for its future work on The Witcher 1 remake. So rather than Fool's Theory developing the remake independently, CDPR is currently structuring its production pipeline so that both The Witcher 1 remake will directly benefit from the technology, the gameplay mechanics, and various other optimizations that will be introduced in The Witcher 4 during that development time, ensuring that they keep a high level of polish and efficiency during its development. So for example, let's say CDPR works on this like really impressive lighting enhancement or something like that, then that technology will be easily carried over to The Witcher 1 remake, and it will allow Fool's Theory to have access to that as well. Essentially, like,
okay, so if you are like reading between the lines and if you're listening to it, and I think he also will mention it later on, that also means that they will finish Witcher 4 first before they continue with the Witcher 1 remake. So we'll basically have to wait for Witcher 4 and see what that looks like from a visual perspective and from all these, let's say, advancements that they want to use. And then we will also have, I think, a very good idea on what they are going to implement in the Witcher 1 remake. So on one hand, it's kind of a delayed now, and it's very far away in the future because now they are focusing on The Witcher 4. So it will take some time to even continue with Witcher 1. But on the other hand, it is good to know that they are going to benefit, let's say, technically and technologically from what they are going to use for Witcher 4. At least that's my takeaway. Let me just switch so I can see your notes. They are currently, the chat is currently like stuck, and I'm not sure if it's maybe because of the time lag that I have. It could be. Okay, now it moved. John is writing, not expecting much from the Oblivion redo either. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a remaster and a remake, like I mentioned in the beginning. I'm not sure if I'm fond of a remake. I would be happy with a remaster in terms of let's take the game and just, let's say, redevelop it anew in a new engine and make it, let's say, great in terms of the usage of the newest technology and visually and graphically. Because, yeah, let's be honest, Witcher 1 was created by, back then, a very unknown studio, which really had a limited budget and a limited engine, and the graphics weren't so great. So if they would be, let's say, doing a remaster, it would be awesome. I am a little bit skeptical of the remake, to be honest. So, yeah. John is saying, they lost me at Souls-like. Yeah. I think that for some people, it's like a great indicator for a game when you hear it's Souls-like. And for a lot of people, it's already like a big red flag. Yeah, I agree with you here on that one, to be honest. Louis is saying, I'm just listening for now, all this is new information to me. So yeah, let me show you the rest of the video, because I will be stopping it still a few times. There is a lot of good information, so let's go through the summary.
They want to make sure that the engine is perfectly fine and squared away before passing it on to Fool's Theory to work on. So I'm expecting most of, if not all of, the crazy technical advancements being made on The Witcher 4 to be carried over to the remake of The Witcher 1.
Yeah, he's also saying it now.
More or less on the same level in terms of visual fidelity. So with that being said, we can expect the remake will look just as good, if not better, than what we saw in The Witcher 4 teaser a few months ago. So with
I have to say one thing here, though. I am wondering, to be honest, what Geralt will be looking like, because we have seen the differences between Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, and then Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 in his appearance. Yes, it's partially because of the graphical advancements, but partially they did change a little bit the facial structure, I believe. So it's kind of an interesting thing to see then how Geralt will be looking in the remake on the Witcher 1 remake. So how close he will be to either the Witcher 2 face or the Witcher 3 face, I'm wondering, right? So that's something that makes me just curious at this time.
With this game being a full from the ground up remake, the question that everyone wants to know is what kind of changes can we expect to the overall gameplay? So the moment-to-moment gameplay is going to be drastically overhauled from the original. In case you guys forgot, the first Witcher game was a PC exclusive that was released all the way back in 2007, and it really played like a PC exclusive. The controls were extremely intricate, and the depth actually turned quite a few people off from finishing it. The Witcher 2 and 3 greatly simplified and
yeah, I will be honest, for me the combat here was a pain in the ass. I will be honest. So yeah, if they make the combat a little bit different, then let's say bring it closer to The Witcher 2 or The Witcher 3, I will be a happy person. So I do not mind some of the changes, especially here in the combat. I think it would be beneficial. Let me see what you are writing. So we are discussing the Oblivion, right? Souls-like blocking and dodging. I mean, I love Soulsborne a lot, but talk about oversaturation. That's from Louis. Yeah, John is saying, might as well use Pedro Pascal for all of the male voices. Oh, good Lord, this guy is everywhere. I agree with you. Like, whenever I turn on anything new on the TV, like Pedro Pascal, it's like they don't have any other actors. It's the same, by the way, for me whenever I see Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet. Like, do they not have any other new young actors, like new faces? You keep on seeing those two in all the roles which are for, let's say, younger actors and actresses, and then if it's somebody like who's older, it's always Pedro Pascal. So yeah, I agree with you. It's always the same people. Yeah, The Witcher 1 combat is unique, not great, but once you get used to it, it has its charm. That's from Louis. Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't have its charm. I'm just saying for me it was a pain in the ass. So yeah, I won't lie, there were portions of the game where I just turned on the easy mode, you know. So yeah, unfortunately. Normally I prefer to play the games like on the normal setting, but yeah, I was struggling on some of the stuff. So let me go back to the vid though.
And streamline the gameplay formula, but the original game is still a PC exclusive because it's basically not playable on a controller with how complicated it is, which that will be the first major overhaul with the remake. But with that being said, what else can we expect? Well, the next thing is the open world design. The original Witcher game used a closed world structure.
I'm not happy about that.
And long loading screens. The remake will adopt a fully open world format similar to other games on the market. The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt obviously was semi-open world. There was like big zones that were really massive, but for the Witcher 1 remake, we can expect the full game to be open world without any loading screens. So yeah,
and that is what scares me. And especially after the last few years, what we have seen. Let me just switch so I can see your comments. The Witcher 3 was, I think, the ideal combo, as was mentioned here. It was semi-open world, so you still had like contained maps, and you did run into like the borders of the map, but they were quite huge, and you had enough space for exploration or, you know, finding some paths outside the standard roads, and you could just roam around and explore, and it was fine. And it was, let's say, the size of the map was just right. Even though you could spend like hundreds of hours on the game, but the map was just right. And then I compare it to other open world games, and lately with Mass Effect Andromeda, which I was playing. Yes, it's already an older game which is a couple of years old, but this is for me exactly the open world nightmare that I'm hoping not to see in the Witcher 1 remake. Why? Because it was just too big. It was like stuffed full with enemies, one next to each other. They were respawning immediately, and it just felt pointless at a certain time. And I'm really having the feeling that whenever you have a game with an open world concept, the idea is to not make it feel too empty by the developers. So they are trying to give you some extra quests there, but usually it's just like filler quests that have absolutely nothing to do with the main quest line. And it's just a time killer for me, and it's just too much. So I will be honest, if they would say they are doing exactly the same style of map, this kind of semi-open world as Witcher 3, I would be absolutely happy. The moment I hear it's complete open world, I am not fond of that, I will be honest. But that's my own personal opinion, so I don't know how you see that. It would be interesting to see what you think about it. I can see you are writing some more. Big world is good till they fill it up with junk quests. That's from John. That's exactly what I mean. Like, I have the feeling that if you have open world games, they are oftentimes full with like little side quests, which are basically just fetch quests most of the time, and they really have nothing to do with the main quest line, or very rarely, and I am not fond of that. We could see that also, for example, in Dragon Age Inquisition. That was also like at the start of the game, you were spending so much time in the first areas just because you got like a huge ton of quests, and a lot of them had in the end nothing to do with the main storyline. So it was kind of tedious, and it really didn't bring any additional value to me as a player in terms of the story or the game. So yeah, Inquisition did that too. Yeah, that's what John is also now mentioning. So there were a couple of games which have been like open world games where you could see exactly like how wrongly you can get it. So let's see. For me, it's currently like, again, one of the points where I say question mark. I'm looking forward to see what they are going to do with it, but I'm just a little bit afraid based on the previous experiences that it might not really be so great to have it fully open world. Yeah. Hinterlands, yes, exactly. Thank you. I forgot what it was called. Like, yeah. So let me go back to the vid again.
You played The Witcher 1 remake, just imagine that location of Vizima and the surrounding areas, but rather than being a closed world structure, it's going to be fully seamless open world. But what about the combat? So it's believed that The Witcher 1's remake is going to feature a gameplay and combat loop that's very similar to what we've seen in other Witcher games, and it will likely be the most similar to The Witcher 4 because, it's being developed after that using the gameplay and enhancements that they make with The Witcher 4, which will likely be an evolution of the real-time open world gameplay of The Witcher 3. Now, Witcher 3's combat does get some criticism from gamers nowadays, but I never actually agreed with a lot of the major stones that get thrown at The Witcher 3. There's a lot of intricacies to the combat, like the magic, the gadgets, and other type parry timing that you have access to dispatch groups of enemies. Like, it's not as refined as something like, for instance, Elden Ring, but that game is very much a combat-based RPG. But honestly, if you compare anything to Elden Ring, like, obviously Elden Ring's combat is one of the best systems that we've had in gaming history almost. The remake of Witcher 1 will likely feature some kind of evolution of The Witcher 3's combat loop, but a bit slower, so the team can adapt and modernize all of the crazy mechanics that were in the 2007 original. So I wouldn't expect a really fast-paced borderline hack and slash combat pacing of The Witcher 3, but the controls and mechanics will likely be very similar. Again,
and that would be actually a good thing, so we would not get this, let's say, tedious gameplay or the combat style that we had in The Witcher 1. It was for me tedious, I will say again. But on the other hand, yes, I'm hoping that it will be, let's say, a little bit more intricate, and that you can spend some time on some additional fighting techniques, which you will have to learn in order to be able to play. So it's one thing to be able to like go through the game very fast with this hack and slash style, where you don't really have to use, for example, any potions or any magic if you don't want to. That's where I think Witcher 3 was a interesting game in terms of combat when you were playing it on the higher difficulties, because that's when you already had to use a lot of the oils and potions and bombs and whatever, and you had to basically prepare a little bit for the fight and not just go straight ahead into it. On the lower difficulties, including the normal one, it was basically really just hack and slash, and I think it was a little bit of a pity. So to find there a little bit of a middle ground in between what they have used in the original Witcher 1 from 2007 and between like a complete just simple hack and slash without anything, the middle ground would be ideal, let me put it that way. John is writing limited response, help open world. Yes, that's true. And Luis is writing, I'll hear no Witcher 1 slander, thank you very much. Okay, I will keep that in check. But yeah, let's be honest. I mean, the game was awesome for the time because it was very close to the books, and I think that's why it was such a big success, because it was like a really true RPG. You have made really difficult choices at times, and those choices have had really visible, let's say, results at the end of the game. The combat was, like I said, pain in the ass, but yeah. But it was at least something that you really had to like actively learn, and you had to use a lot of the stuff that you used in the beginning also throughout the game, and it wasn't so easy. So yeah, I think the game had a lot of plus points, but from the remake or usage of the current technology, I think it will be benefiting also, as he mentioned, when they will have to adjust it a little bit more for the controllers or the gameplay with the controllers. And I think that's when it will be probably a little bit more easy to handle the fighting techniques, let me put it that way. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this portion of the game to see what it will look like and what the combat and gameplay will be like. But let me go back to the bit.
Like I said before, I think that whenever it comes to The Witcher 4 versus the remake, I think those games will play more similar because of all of the different upgrades that we will see featured in The Witcher 1. And that's not to mention the engine as well. Like, this is going to be an Unreal Engine 5 game versus a Red Engine game, which is yet another reason why the combat will play more like The Witcher 4 most likely than it will The Witcher 3. Which this right here is obviously a big concern that I have about The Witcher 4, like the fact that it is on a new engine has me concerned that it's not going to play like a Witcher game. But that's one of the reasons why they're using a modified version of Unreal 5 to kind of Witcher-fy the engine to make it feel like the Witcher
he's mentioning too,
which that's
as well
another
now.
reason why we're gonna have to wait a long time for the Witcher 1 remake, because it will be releasing after Witcher 4, but we'll talk more about that in just a bit. Now, I've seen some people online take all of the information from the earnings call as confirmation that the Witcher 1 remake is essentially going to be a reskinned version of the Witcher 4, basically like an expansion pack sequel. However, I don't think this is necessarily true. While I do think the combat is going to be overhauled to play similarly to The Witcher 4, I do think that Fool's Theory is going to be putting a lot of work into incorporating elements of the original game's combat loop into the Witcher 4 formula wherever they can. I think it's undeniable that the games will look very similar to one another in terms of graphic fidelity and art style, and the actual real-time combat will likely be similar, but everything else is going to be very distinct in my opinion.
Art style. Now, there's one of the things where I am wondering, from what we have seen from the initial trailer for Witcher 4, it does look, let's say, really like a Witcher game. It was really like dark, gritty. It did immediately give me this Witcher vibe when I was seeing it. So it wasn't something that would be off compared to what we are used to from the past. That's fine. And if the Witcher 1 remake will be in that same style, let's say, and same kind of atmosphere, I still think it will be a good Witcher game in those terms. The question is, will it achieve those, let's say, dark levels of the Witcher one of the original games? And if I hear about incorporating elements, again, I have to come back to wondering what else will be changed and what will be different in the remake. And that brings me also to another question. What will happen with the original game that's currently, of course, still available? Because I have it, I have bought it, a lot of people have. The question is, will it be available also after the remake is out? So that the people who have not played the original one can then still buy the first one, the original one, if they decided to, and if they want to maybe compare the original with the remake. I am just wondering, because we have also seen a couple of times when there have been any like remakes of games that the original was suddenly no longer available. I think, let's say, and that was even like a remaster, not even an official remake. That was what happened with Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition. If I remember correctly, there were a couple of changes which we have seen where they did add something on top, and where they have like changed, for example, a little bit what you can do in certain areas, but then they also changed a little bit the combat style, and suddenly you had, let's say, a limited range of skills that you could learn, and you had to invest, let's say, the points a little bit differently. You had a limited range of points that you could invest into your skill. So there was a change already in the enhanced edition compared to the original. And then once the enhanced edition was out, you were no longer able to buy the original version. And that is something where I'm having a big question mark, and I'm a little bit afraid of, because if somebody would rather go back to the original, will it still be available after the remake is out? That's a good question. Let me switch to see your questions or your notes. Yeah, John is writing right now, I'm downloading the Baldur's Gate 3 final patch. I have heard that there is one out. Louis, pain in the ass was the last third of the game where you were an unstoppable death machine, unable to die even on the hard difficulty. Yes. And the question of availability is interesting. Divinity is actually available in both versions. Bought it about a year ago, both versions included. Oh, really? Because when I was playing the original one on an old PC. That one's gone. And under a different account, not my own. And when I created my own account and I had a new PC and I wanted to buy the game, I had only the enhanced edition available. I didn't even have the original game. So I thought, okay, nothing much of it, because I thought it's the same. It's just like with some additional stuff on top. Yay. So I bought the game and I started to play it. And only when I was playing it, I realized, okay, there is really a change in the combat and the skill system. And I was not so fond of it. And when I tried to look for the original game back then, it was not available. So if you're saying the original is now available somewhere, it's a good thing to know, because I will be looking for it and I will be definitely buying the original one, not just the enhanced edition. I do prefer the original one, to be honest. Louis is writing, Dark Souls was a different story. You can't get the original version anymore. The remastered is the only one available. Yeah. And John is writing, Bethesda did that as well. Pulled all prior versions of Skyrim. Oh, crap. Yeah. I still play an older build of Skyrim. That's from John. So basically you were lucky to be able to like buy it, or that you have bought it previously before they made it unavailable. I think that's a pity. I think that's always the problem if you do have a let's say remaster or remake or an enhanced edition or whatever you want to call it, that they make the original game unavailable. And I think it's a pity because it would be good for the people to be able to compare. And some people, like I said, prefer the original one, not the, let's say, newer version, even though usually most people do actually buy both. I, like it was with the Divinity, as I said, if I would have both available, I would buy both. So I would buy the original, not just the enhanced edition. So yeah, but let's go back to the vid.
Think about how Fallout New Vegas is basically just Fallout 3, but with a bunch of crazy twists. That seems to be the situation that we're looking at for The Witcher 4 and The Witcher 1 Remake. The Witcher 1 Remake is going to be built off of the foundation of The Witcher 4, but as much as I do have concerns, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play exactly the same as one another. Now, sure, the remake is going to be very different from the original 2007 game, but that's kind of the point of doing a remake like this. And
yeah,
it's not like the
which
original
I'm a
game
little
is
bit
going
afraid
anywhere,
of.
right? So if you don't like the direction the remake is going, you can always just boot up the original on GOG. Now let's talk about the release window.
Boot up the original on GOG, yeah, as long as they will not make it unavailable. That's what we have just currently discussed. If they keep the original version there as well, kudos then to CDPR. It will be awesome because they will give you 2 options, whichever game you would like to play. But it's a question. We are going to see that. I'm actually happy really that I have the original version, which I can still play. Then let's see what the remake will be like.
And just the overall release date situation. Well, since CDPR is passing down their technical advancements to Fool's Theory for the game's remake, I think it's safe to assume that The Witcher 4 will be the one to drop first, which we kind of already know that's happening. And then the remake will drop probably maybe a year, 2 years after that. So for example, if The Witcher 4 drops sometime in 2027, possibly 2028, we shouldn't expect to see The Witcher 1 remake until late 2028 or early 2029 at the absolute earliest. Although I'm personally expecting The Witcher 4 to drop in 2028, which would put The Witcher 1 remake around 2030. In fact, if we take what CDPR is saying here at face value, that would kind of imply that The Witcher 1 remake isn't even going to enter full production until after The Witcher 4 is nearly completed, which is why the wait will be closer to 2 years between the games. So hunker down because we are in for a pretty long wait here. That being said, the earnings call also confirmed that CDPR is prioritizing game stability and development satisfaction before release dates, likely in an attempt to avoid another Cyberpunk 2077 situation. Cyberpunk was obviously launched way too early, and that did a lot of damage to CDPR's reputation that they're still recovering from. However, now that Cyberpunk has been fixed and CDPR restored a lot of faith from gamers around the world, they know they could take their time with future projects, which means they're not going to be rushing their team at all this time around. So yeah,
yeah, but again, it makes me wonder why they announced the remake then so soon, if they are going to enter the full production on that game only after they finish The Witcher 4. So they have announced it in 2022, I think, like I said, so like 2.5, 3 years ago. And we are not going to see it earlier than 2030, maybe. So it's like 8 years before the game at the earliest will probably be released. That's a long time. I mean, yeah, it just gives me again some big question mark and maybe just a tiny red flag, because there have been games where we have been waiting for a very long time for those, and we have seen how those ended. Yeah, I don't want to say the words, but you know which game I'm talking about, the one from the last year, which we were waiting for 10 years for. So yeah, it's kind of a interesting take why they even announced it then so soon. Why they did not just focus on The Witcher 4 first. So yeah, let's just leave that aside. I can see that you are writing some more. John is writing, I just don't allow Steam to update Skyrim. Yeah, I have the update, automatic updates also like stopped. Props to GOG. Yeah, I am hoping that they will keep the original game too, but they do have a tendency to keep the older games. So I am hoping that they will keep the original game even if they make the remake. Luis is saying, oof, let's hope I'm still alive for even The Witcher 4. Yeah, that it's what we currently see for so many games throughout the years. I am having the feeling the more advanced the technology, the longer it takes for the studios to actually create the game, and then we are waiting for years and years and years for the games to be released. So I think we need to get used to a little bit longer timelines for the game releases as we seen in the past. But on the other hand, and this goes hand in hand with what I have mentioned already in some other vid, I would rather prefer if they would go back to, let's say, smaller games, smaller maps, smaller developers, like sizes or the team sizes, and just in general, let's say, develop the games a bit faster, and then maybe develop 2-3 in the same time span, and actually, let's say, get more out of it, also in terms of the revenue that everybody is looking at, and also, to satisfy the gamers who oftentimes, let's say, move on or are getting very, let's say, anxious if the wait is too long for a game. Yes, I understand that they don't want to bring out a product that will end up like Cyberpunk, as Wes has mentioned. Yes, nobody wants that. And then it took them a couple of years to fix it on the go. Nobody wants that, but I think this is also hand in hand again going with the size of the game. Just make a little bit smaller the games, and then they are going exactly in the opposite direction. They are currently going from an enclosed areas game into fully open world game, and I think that's exactly where the development isn't taking so long. So yeah, we'll see. John is saying, I don't think you can get the original Mass Effect either. No, you can't actually. So that's why I was also a little bit unhappy when I switched the PCs and the accounts. I was used to be playing, the Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, the original ones. And then when I had the new account and the new PC, I was only able to buy the Legendary Edition, and I did, even though I did not have a direct comparison, I did notice the changes that they did to some of the games. Some were positive. I think it was, I did mention it for The Witcher 1, they have improved the hiding mechanism, like when you were hiding behind some of the crates and stuff like that, and that was really awful in the original game. But then again, on the other hand, they did take out some of the stuff, and which is like controversial because it's not for the modern audience. It's not so great because somebody might have feel offended by some of the stuff. So yeah, I am not really fond of not having the option to be able to buy the original games and play them in the, let's say, original state. So, yeah. Louis is saying, they're not going to be rushing their team at all this time. My sweet summer child, are you for real? I mean, it depends on when they are saying they want to use, the technology from The Witcher 4, and they want to use the, the combat system and everything from The Witcher 4. If they would want to rush them, they would only be able to do that, I think, until up to a certain extent, because if they are not working at the same time simultaneously on the games, and they are just starting to enter full production after The Witcher 4, they will have to give them some time to actually adopt everything from The Witcher 4 into The Witcher 1 in terms of the combat and visuals, etc. So, I think they will be rushing their team a little bit, but you can only do that to a certain extent, I think, yeah. But I understand why you're writing it. It's still CDPR, right? Good, let's go back to the vid.
I wouldn't expect The Witcher 1 remake until after The Witcher 4, which will launch probably in 2027, 2028-ish, which is unfortunate, but I would rather have a complete experience for The Witcher 4 and a fully polished experience for The Witcher 1 remake rather than a rushed product that ends up not being what we all wanted. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Are you excited for The Witcher 1 remake? Are you concerned about it at all? Let me know down below. Also, hit the
Yeah, so basically we are through with the vid. I am a little bit concerned because I do think that the game will be for some of the players not what they were hoping for, and that is, let's say, to keep the original story, to keep the original stuff that made the game so great. And if they're going to, let's say, change the game in a significant way, it will become basically a different game, not really necessarily the game that made the Witcher 1 so great, or the aspects of the game that made the game so great. So yeah, I have some concerns at this point, but I guess we will have to wait and for a very long time to see what will be actually in the game, what will be not, and we will have to wait for some, gameplay and some trailers and actually some feed from the remake then when it's ready. So it's a long time away, and I think this is currently what we have. I don't expect actually to get some more updates or just a few for a long time, because now they will be focusing on Witcher 4, as Wes has mentioned as well, and I'm expecting more of the information coming in now for The Witcher 4. I think also now during the Summer Game Fest that is upcoming, we will probably get some more information on The Witcher 4. So I guess that for Witcher 1 it will be a bit now longer time quiet, to be honest. Yeah, I can see that you are chatting, which is good. Yeah, John is writing, they all need to calm down the G-Wiz overkill on environmental graphics. They don't add that much and just makes new games huge HD hogs. Yeah, that's also like, if you look at the games when you are downloading them, I oftentimes like get a very nasty surprise when I see, yeah, you need, I don't know, 100 giga space for that game, and I'm like, what the hell? And it is usually just because the graphics are eating so much space. So yeah, you are right that that's not exactly also a very positive factor for the new games, to be honest, how much space they take away. So I do have a relatively huge space on my PC, and I still have to sometimes uninstall certain games if I want to install something new and want to play something, because it's just getting then to a point where the PC performance is slowed down because of how little space is left actually when I keep all the games installed. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, the space or the amount of space that you need. Yeah, John is writing that exactly. Sick of 100+ gig games file sizes. Yeah, it's always a positive and nice surprise when you see a game that has already like just a small size, and when you open it and you play it, you actually realize it's still looking great and it's still looking good. So that's what I mentioned also with, let's say, making the games a little bit smaller. And that is also in terms of the file sizes then. If you are making the open world games, that's going to be 100+ giga. So yeah, good. So that was for the Witcher 1 remake. Let me maybe switch here. So we have discussed the Fool's Fury. We have then the next topic, which is Nintendo. And yeah, as I mentioned previously, we did discuss the price increases and how like everything is going into values which many people don't consider fair or normal anymore. I will tell you, I cannot find it anymore, but I did have I found, I think on Reddit, a discussion where I just can't help myself and think, okay, as long as we have people like that around, there will be always somebody buying those games. So even if like many people and many gamers tell themselves or between us, yeah, I'm not going to buy the games for this price, it's just overboard and it's too much. There will be enough people who misunderstand how the inflation works, let's say, and who will be having takes like, I will try to find it maybe off screen, who will be having takes like, yeah, but inflation is good in terms of like, yes, everything costs more, and the developers also have to like make sure that they are selling everything a little bit more expensive than before. But we as people will also have, because of the inflation, more money. Dear Lord, if somebody writes that, it's absolutely clear they have no clue about what an inflation is, and they really like have no clue what's going to happen. I do believe that there are some, let's say, employers who maybe do increase your salary based on the inflation, the current inflation that's officially stated somewhere. But that's not all of the people. So in reality, most people will have less money, because for the money you have, you will be able to buy less than before, because everything's more expensive. And then let's not forget the statistics that we see oftentimes. Let's say the average inflation for my country, somebody would state, okay, it's, I don't know, 11% for the previous year. I'm just making things up now. I haven't looked up the numbers, but let's just try an example. That's the average. Yes. And that is actually comprised of all the goods. So you will have goods which had seen a smaller increase and where the inflation wasn't so big. For example, let's say electronics. That's not an everyday item that you would buy every day. I don't know, you don't buy every day a TV, or you don't buy a washing machine like every 2-3 months. So if there you see the price increase only of 5%, and you have groceries which you have to shop for basically every day, or every single day, or every 2-3 days, or once a week at least, if those increase by, I don't know, 23%, yes, the average will be officially somewhere, I don't know, 11%, and that's what will be stated everywhere. That's the average of the inflation we have in the country. And if you get an adjusted, let's say, salary, if you're one of the lucky ones, you will get those 11% increase, which I highly doubt most of the companies are not giving you that much, to be honest. Yeah, but in reality, you still will be able to buy less for the money that you have, because the groceries that you need every single day are having a 23% price increase because of the inflation. So some people absolutely misunderstand the inflation and how it really works. And if such people are saying, yeah, I still will be buying the game, it's fine for me, I mean, I don't care if it costs 100, then those people in Nintendo and everywhere else will still get their money and their revenue, because there will be enough of, let's say, stupid people out there who will be buying it for that price. Unfortunately, that's the reality. So let me switch just to see your comments. Yeah, Louise is writing, I'm back, went to say hi to my little sister. I see I missed the switch of topics. So it's just started now. So I will have to, let's say, find the topic or the discussion on Reddit where I said this. I didn't want to believe my own eyes. I will probably then, when I'm making a vid out of this live stream, I usually, like, if you have noticed, I made separate vids for the topics that we are discussing. I will try to find that discussion which I have seen, I think it was on Reddit, and this brainless take. I just couldn't believe what I'm reading when I was saying it, like, hey, it's obvious people have no clue. So yeah, unfortunately, that's what's going on. So let me go back to the Nintendo topic. And the Nintendo Switch reveal is launching on, so it will be launching on June the 5th. It's just around the corner. It's not so long away anymore. And if you look at the price differences, it's kind of interesting because you can see here, for example, the flagship launch title Mario Kart World has a pre-tariff cost of $80 in the US for both its physical and digital versions, while it's £75 for a physical copy in the UK and 67 digitally, and 90 euros in Europe or 80 euros digitally. So for the physical one, it's already 90 euros, and that's a lot. That's honestly, I think for many people that's already going like overboard. It's just starting to be too much. The Japanese consumers have actually, I think, the lowest prices if you look at it. So they have around $61 for the digital version and around $68 for a physical copy. So lucky Japanese people. And there is a good comparison here in the games industry article. I would advise you to read through it. I will post definitely the link again in the description. But it just makes me wonder, like, how far people are willing to go to still buy these games. I understand that if somebody likes, for example, Mario Kart and has maybe grown up with the games, there's a lot of nostalgia there. And also, if you already have kids and the kids are also used to Mario Kart, then yes, you are probably going to buy the game just simply because you want to continue. I do also understand that the original Switch, when it came out, it did cost way less, but it's quite a few years back. And if you think about the, let's say, price and income ratio at that time, I can understand why they increased the price right now, because they haven't had increases for a long time. So on one hand, it is, let's say, understandable. I'm not saying justifiable. I'm saying it's understandable. But on the other hand, we are going now into already such pricing ranges where many people will say, okay, hey, that's starting to be too much. And I think that's also the take of many people, which are, let's say, the standard gamers who are not necessarily very dedicated to, I don't know, Nintendo or just Mario Kart or just this and that type of console or PC games. Just standard gamers who are just playing games from time to time, after work, over the weekend, whatever, but they have other stuff in their life too. So they are not like the ultra gamers themselves. That's just the, let's say, standard consumer. And for the standard consumer, there is somewhere this cap, which I have already mentioned previously last month, where they will just say, okay, until here and no more. And there is also additionally some Nintendo Live information here, where basically I would say the justification is also mentioned why the prices are as they are. As you can see, there will be a bundle which will be Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart for $500, which is a lot, to be honest. So yeah, I wonder how much people are really willing to pay. Here are some prices visible, like very simply listed. And the increases are maybe not so big for some of the games, but in general, you have to think about the overall impact that this will have also on the entire industry. Not just oh, here I see a game that was previously $35 and now it's $40. Oh, it's just $5 increase. It's in general that impact that this will make also on other developers and other, consoles and other, let's say, PC versions, etc., etc. So I don't really see that positive. It looks like one of them has really started and now the avalanche is rolling downhill and just the prices are just increasing more and more. There is one thing which is also here a video which I would like to share, maybe at least some portions of it, where I think somebody had a very good take on that. But let me switch to see what you are writing. Louise is writing, Mac Thief had a couple of pretty good videos on the Nintendo situation. Yes. And John is saying, my freaking trash bin bill has gone up by $10 a month for a year. Yeah, tell me something. We were paying for the trash last year, 100, like the yearly fee, 180 euros, and this year it was 230 already, so an increase of 50. It might not look that much, but compare it with the income that the people here have, and this is like absolutely nuts, the price increase. So I can see it everywhere. It's whether it's like water, whether it's the trash bill, it's just awful, and plus the groceries and the stuff that you need for everyday life. So yes, everything's going up and it's crazy. And then the budget for the remaining stuff that you can afford, whether it's vacations or games or whatever, is just getting smaller and smaller. And honestly, I have been talking to a couple of people who are going or used to go on vacations, like at least once a year or at least once in 2 years. And some of the people told me, I'm not able to go on vacation anymore because I don't have the money. And there are people who haven't been for a vacation like for 4, 5, 6 years because they can no longer afford it. So we can see that. We can see that also on like these items. It's not something essential. And when you spend all your money on everything that is essential, there is nothing left for stuff like this, like games or vacations, etc. The people just cannot afford it any longer. So yeah, phone too. Yeah, it's the same here. Louis is writing, but isn't the physical copy still just a cover with a download code? It actually is. So that's the problem. It's no longer actually really physical. It's just that I think the difference between the physical and digital is that for the physical, you get to keep the game even if they would pull it from the store and if they would pull it like from everywhere. With the digital, I think you are just basically like borrowing the game, so they can still like pull it away and you will be losing the game. And I think that's the whole difference now between physical and digital. But I don't see a reason why there would be this difference between physical and digital. I at this point, no. So you're right there. John is saying older games cost more because Nintendo had to include larger physical storage cartridges. Yes. Now you just get a code, same with games on discs. Yeah, that's exactly the point. Louis is saying, oh, sorry for the politics derailment, but it's true that your former state attorney is going to get a lifetime monthly rent of 5,000 euros. I will be honest, I have no clue. I absolutely do not follow up on politics, whether it's the local ones here or any other ones, because I realized a couple of years ago it was just making me so mad, and I have enough problems and worries in my life. It's just my time is too precious and my nerves are too precious for me to waste them on some politics. So no, I'm the last person who would be, let's say, the best to discuss some politics with. I do have some opinions on certain things because no matter how much I avoid it, I get the information from somewhere. So that's an interesting information which you are telling me, but it's not something that I would be aware of, honestly. And as I'm saying, the only, let's say, political thing that I'm interested in, honestly, currently, is just don't touch the setup with the, like retirement requirements. There are currently certain retirement requirements in place which would allow me to go earlier into retirement than the physical age requires. So I could go earlier because of how many years I have already worked. As long as nobody touches that, I don't care if this state falls and burns, to be honest. It sounds probably stupid, but I really don't care what they are doing here. Give me my retirement. I just pack my stuff and leave, and as long as I'm still getting some retirement money, some rent, which I will, because I have like also not just a state one, but also some private one, I don't care. I don't care about this state. It can burn for whatever I care. Just wait with the burning of the state until I'm retired, and then do whatever you want. So yeah, that's just my 5 cents on that, or 2 cents or whatever. So yeah, nah, I'm not really a political creature. I stopped being that a long time ago. I do have my opinion about certain things. I'm just not voicing it because, just like with religion, it just steers bad takes from many people, and it just it just creates more problems. And yeah, some people will have always a different opinion than you have, and it just leads nowhere. So nah, I'm done with those two topics, to be honest. So yeah, back to that pricing. There was a video from Sungrand Studios. If you remember, I did mention Sungrand Studios already a couple of times in the past, because the guy has really good takes. And the point is, and I've already mentioned that he's saying oftentimes with like a stone face something that is actually like sarcasm. He just comes across as if he really means it. And you really have to pay attention to the little clues that he gives, whether it's his body language or what he's saying, to realize that he's not really meaning that, and that it's just a joke. And he made a video where he reacted as well to this whole Nintendo situation, where he was basically like defending it, and he was saying like how disappointed he is in the viewers, that they like have a problem with paying bigger prices. Of course, the reaction was huge from both his following as well as from other people who are not necessarily following him, because they thought all that he really means that, and he didn't. So he made later a bit, I think like yesterday or 2 days ago, where he actually clarified like, haha, yeah, you all fell for that. So it was really just a joke. There was in the meantime one video by, I think it was Decembro, who reacted to that. And the point is, it's not necessarily the reaction to Sungrand, because as I've said, the Sungrand's original vid was actually kind of sarcastic and a joke, just people really thought he means it. But for me, what's more important is that the Decembro here is mentioning a couple of very good points why these price increases are crap. And I do believe that if you are also scrolling through the comment section here, as well as online through some of the discussion forums, you see that many people are really not fond of this. And I just wanted to play some portions of the, let's say, response. Let's just again ignore that he's responding to Sungrand, but let's just focus on the points where he's mentioning why these kind of price increases are not a great thing. And I think he really is making some good points.
Hey Jarrell, You've commented on one of my videos before, so at least we're somewhat acquainted, if we can call it that. I've been quietly following along your recent videos on the Nintendo pricing situation, and I also saw a video last night where you mentioned that you were being sent hate comments. I'm sorry for your losses, by the way. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to continue on trying to make content with that kind of weight on your mind, and while I don't agree with your defense of the pricing situation, it is still needless to say that any hate comments are wholly inappropriate and unnecessary, and people should be able to disagree with one another respectfully. I think that your reference to Satoru Iwata and your message to empower developers was fine, good even. It was just done in the wrong video, because within that context, it is as if you were trying to tell people to dismiss greed-driven price hikes for the sake of their love for the industry or something along those lines, and that obviously didn't go well. From a consumer standpoint, we have great love and passion for this industry, but that obviously only exacerbates our defensiveness of it. We have been getting nickel and dimed by higher-ups in this industry for over a decade. Rampant greed has seen that the base price of a video game at $60 was already enough to start outperforming even Hollywood itself. And then, with the advent of microtransactions and other predatory monetization tactics, it saw this industry completely eclipse Hollywood when it came to profits. We've seen various examples of executives being rewarded for these monetization practices, such as Andrew Wilson and Bobby Kotick, who received bonus checks in the dozens of millions of dollars, and even more in some other.
I will stop it here so that you have the time to read it, because I myself had to read it a couple of times. For me, it was so unbelievable. I do understand that they get a few $1 million, these executives, but Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick is due to receive $200 million. How crazy is that? So basically for me, when I see this, my first thought is, you are increasing the prices under the guise of, hey, increased costs and more people working on the projects. But in reality, you are increasing the price so that you are able to pay these exorbitant prices, or I don't know, some bonuses to your CEOs. That's crazy. 200 million bonus. So on top of his I'm quite sure $1 million value salary. And I think that's what makes people absolutely pissed. Yeah, let me see your comments, because I was looking forward to that one. Yeah, he's that pen. He's Sangren. Yeah, that's from John Lewis. I saw someone being pissed off about Sangren, so I'm thinking he was misunderstood. No, he was just really he was saying something with a completely stone face. And most people fell for that, because he didn't mention anywhere that it's actually just a joke and he's meaning it in a sarcastic way. But that's what most of his bits are, right? December usually has good takes. That's from John. I agree. I'm following up here as well. And Louis is writing, he's okay, though I do think he gets a bit too emotional about stuff. I'd appreciate if he toned a few things down. Still solid, though. 200 million to buy breast milk straight from the tap. Yeah, most probably, yeah, because I have no clue, why you would pay somebody $200 million a bonus. Come on. That's just overboard. Let me go back to the bit.
Cases, sometimes even at the same time that their companies were going through layoffs. We fought hard against that, and we lost. All we managed to do was push back the egregious practices, but they still gained enough ground that now various forms of monetization have been normalized. Similarly, in 2020 or 2021, we saw the price of a game increase from $60 to $70, which many of us already have to pay the full $80 for because of tax. Once again, we fought and we lost, swiftly too, and soon after that, the $70 price tag became the new standard, no matter if it's a top-tier quality game from a renowned and loved studio or the latest piece of garbage from Ubisoft. And now
And that's the problem. That's what I mentioned here. So it's like somebody started the avalanche and the avalanche is now rolling. Somebody started again to increase the prices and now everybody else is going to do that as well. And it's just going into an area where the people will not be able to afford it. And on the other hand, like I said, if we look at the bonus payments that the CEOs and the executives are getting, I don't want to pay for that, to be honest. I mean, that's just nuts.
Now we are once again seeing another push to increase the price of a standard game from $70 to $80, which again, for many of us, will mean the increase up to $90 with the tax. All while the industry around us continues on having the same issues without addressing them, all while monetization still remains a huge problem that will only keep getting worse and worse and worse with each and every year, and all while the cost of living in the world around us increases and people, be them, parents or young adults, are being robbed of a dignified standard of living. We look at the industry and we see an industry that has completely deluded itself into believing that increasing prices and monetization is what is going to save them internally, save them from their constant string of releases that fail to meet expectations. And we both know that that's not the case. We both know why they're failing. Deep down we understand that it has nothing to do with the price. Deep down we know very well that they're failing because they're not listening to us. They're making garbage that people don't want to play. And as I said in my full video yesterday addressing this issue, the industry isn't in monetary trouble because they're selling games like hotcakes, but the unit price per game is not enough to bring them a profit. They're in trouble because their games are just not appealing, and therefore they're failing to sell them. They are completely disconnected from us. In some cases, they don't understand what it is that we want, and in other cases, they do know what we want, but they just don't want to give it to us. Increasing the price of a game is not going to do anything to fix that. Arguing that it's because of inflation is not going to do it either because, again, while development costs increased, so did the very industry itself. There are more people buying and playing games now than anyone could have ever imagined back then. While the base price of a game increased, the value of $60 or now $70 has not decreased. That is still a lot of money to us, a lot of groceries, or a nice little sum to put aside for a rainy day if something bad happens to our car, or our home, or even ourselves. Increasing the price of a game is also not going to fix this industry's problem with frivolous spending. Some AAA companies are capable of spending hundreds of millions of dollars into making just one single game. And sometimes,
that's the problem,
if that game does well and sells millions and millions of copies, they end up not having a big enough profit to justify what they spend.
That's one of the problems that I see, and where I again have to come back to what I have mentioned previously. I think they should rather go back to making the games a bit smaller, with smaller teams, with, invest, let's say, a little bit less into the games. Because if you make a game that's very successful, and you are making it with less cost, you will in the end get a bigger revenue. And of course, you will, as a studio, continue, and you will be able to, let's say, finance the next game or some other stuff, and you will be successful in existing. But if you are a studio that invests a huge portion of millions of dollars into one single game and that game flops, then of course you are going to say goodbye to a lot of employees. You are in the end going to have to downsize, whether you like it or not. And in the end, you can maybe afford just one more game that will be flopping and your studio is gone. And it does have a negative impact on the industry as such at large. It's not just that the gamers are not going to buy these games and not going to buy your game if it's bad. It's the problem, like he's mentioning, that if you're not making enough money to actually offset what you have invested into the game, you are still failing as a studio. So that's why I don't really understand why this need to make the games always bigger and bigger and bigger and invest into and more and more and more and more money into the development, instead of rather trying to downsize and go back a little bit into, let's say, a moderately sized game, and then just make sure that it's good so that you actually have some success with the game and get the revenue that you need. So Yeah, he's making quite a few good points. Let me just check the chat. Yeah, John is saying, I just cannot waste time watching Smash JT. Was it that Sembro that recommended Enclave Emily's video? That's from Louis. That one was an absolute massacre of Ubisoft and AC. And John is saying, well, I have real problems with big price bumps from companies that say, get used to not owning your games. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant with this difference also between the physical and digital. Like most of the games for the past couple of years already have been just digital, and technically you are not really owning them. So imagine if somebody would tell you, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, that you are going to pay, let's say, $80 for a game that you are never going to own. And that technically, if the developer decides to pull it from, the online stores and to pull it from, I don't know, PlayStation or whatever, you are going to lose it. Even though you have paid $80 for it, it's still not yours. That's the crazy bit. Like if I'm having to pay like $80 for a game, at least I need to be sure that it's really mine, that it's going to continue be there if I decide to play it in 10 years, and even if the game is no longer available somewhere in a store, and let's say the online servers will be shut down, I still want to be able to play the game. I still want to have it on my PC. And that's something that I'm not going to get. So why should I pay $80 for something I'm never going to own? And somebody can take away from me whenever they decide. That's the crazy thing, right? So you're technically paying for something that is not yours. I mean, if somebody would tell me I pay $20 for something that's not yours, okay, that's not such a big amount. So even if somebody decides a few years later, okay, you will no longer be able to play the game now. Okay, $20 gone, not so bad. I was enjoying it for quite a few years, but do that with $80 and that's already quite a difference. So yeah, that's one of the big pain points as well, I think. Yeah. Let me go back to the vid because it's mentioning quite a few things still.
On the game. There are such massively bloated budgets in this industry that, to the mind of a layman, to the mind of just a random average person such as myself, I cannot even understand where all that money went. I cannot even understand how so much money was spent in a game that plays the same or even inferior to some other games that I've played that spent a fraction of that money. There's a lot of really bad people ahead of this industry, ahead of these companies, making really bad decisions. Not just decisions in what gets put into a game, but also decisions when it comes to spending that money. And that is if we attribute this problem to idiocy instead of malice and actual corruption. And this is why people don't want to hear it. That's why people don't want to hear about inflation. People don't want to hear about the price of a video game being way higher back in the day when, the manufacturing of cartridges was also much more expensive. They don't want to hear that the price of a game didn't change for a very long time before changing in 2020 or 2021. And they also don't want to hear that the multi-billion-dollar company is making a few less millions now than they did the last fiscal year. I know that you know all of this, and I believe that you can relate to players and understand this aspect of it. People just...
let's not forget for these big corporations, and that's not just the gaming industry. That's in many other industries as well. They see it as a failure already if they do not make more this year than they made last year. They still have a huge profit, but if they don't make more, that's a failure. I mean, for me, it's a concept that's completely out of touch with reality. It's just madness, right? Normally, if I would have a company as a person, let's say smaller company, I would be happy if I would be making a profit every year. And I don't care if it's bigger than the last year. Did I make a profit? Awesome. I can either invest it into something more in my company, or I can maybe pay my employees a bigger bonus, but not just the CEO, I mean really the employees. I can invest the money again into something more, or I can just enjoy it and have this profit for myself. Fine. But thinking that you can grow the profit every year, and we are talking already about millions and millions and millions, it's just nonsense. Like the player base which is there might grow a little bit, but it will not grow that it can cover your extensive greed for having I don't know how many percentage increase of profit every year. It's just absolutely crazy. So this is something where it's a concept where I'm thinking, okay, they're just nuts. Normal people would be happy just to make a profit and not necessarily chase for always bigger numbers. It's greed. For me, it's just simply greed, right? Yeah. Let's see what you are writing. John is writing, I went to single player games because one way or another I have a copy of it. I quit live service games. Yeah, that's the same on my side. I played SWG for 10 years. When they shut down, I had screenshots and nothing else. Yeah, that's exactly the pain point which I've mentioned. Like, you lose everything, even if you have paid for the game, and that's the crap. Yeah, same with EverQuest 2. Yeah, so let me go back to the video and watch a little bit more, but I do think like that's why I was saying he's summarizing it very nicely, what's really going on in the industry and between the industry and the gamers, and why gamers' eyes are so tired of this and why they do not want to see these price increases, because as he said, we don't want to hear that. We just getting so much crap from the studios in the recent years that yeah,
they're not dumb, and in the end they see through the bullshit, and they're really just refusing to bend over and let yet another inexcusable greed-driven decision to be forced on them as consumers in a world where we lose more and more control over that market. Our ability to vote with our wallets is more and more compromised the closer we get to an all-digital future in which we can't even look for alternate avenues to buy games at a cheaper price or make use of the second-hand market. What's going to happen when eventually that inevitably happens? Personally, I just don't want to be stuck in that future when today we have Nintendo laying down the seeds to games increasing from $70 to $80, $90 with tax in various territories and in online stores such as PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah, like I said, they started an avalanche, and that's now
on PC,
rolling.
And the idea that even the digital game itself must be hiked up in price as well, despite it being literally distributed directly to the player without any further distribution costs.
Yes.
And this is just some of the concerns that people are having with the Switch 2 announcement. I believe that you can relate with it, and I believe that you didn't mean any ill will or condescension by the way that you spoke, but the framing of it all was just off. As was the implication that people that are angry at this are just being misguided by videos enabling their rage. I admit some videos are that way, and it's just the way that it is. I don't pay much attention to it because in the end, these are acts driven by greed that pose a danger to the industry at large, that have the ability to impact every other publisher beyond Nintendo. This is not just greedy, it's irresponsible and selfish.
That's what I said.
Acts alone are already enough to make any consumer pissed off because they are anti-consumer. People aren't being driven to being angry because they can't see the other side. They're angry because they see this with clarity. I believe that if you had made a separate video appealing to the love of this industry...
Yeah, he's going back now to reacting to what Sangre did or said in his original video, but that portion in between was, I think, the most important bit where he summarized really well what makes people so angry about these price increases, and it all goes hand in hand. It's in general the living conditions that are, let's say, worsening for many people. It's the garbage we are getting from the developers, and it's also, how much money they invest into games that, let's say, look the same as, I don't know, games that have 10 years ago cost half the production costs, money, whatever, so we don't see really the reason why the increase now. I understand they are employing people, they have to pay them, and of course they have different wages now than they used to have 10 years ago, but then don't employ 600 of them, employ just 200 and make a smaller game. Again, we circle back to that where we are saying, okay, maybe it's time to start to think about downsizing, which again brings me back to the Witcher 1 remake. It makes me now also very skeptical when I hear that they are making an open world game, which will just again require hundreds of people working on that. It will drive up the cost, and who knows how much the game will be costing. And because the Witcher 1 game has such a big dedicated fan base, if they botch that remake, people will not buy it, and then they will again just see huge losses on CDPR side. So again, it will be like a cycle that's just not satisfaction for both sides. It will not be great for the gamers, and it will not be great for the studio. So yeah, let me go back to what you are writing. I have a copy of SFC1 bought in 2003, and I can still play on my Windows 7 computer. You also have one that is still working with Windows 7, me too. Yeah, I'm keeping the old PC, some old PCs, games which are like running only on Windows 7, so I'm keeping that old PC still, but I will be honest, I do not turn it on so often anymore as I used to, but I understand the notion where you want to just keep this old PC running, this old Windows version, because you can play the older games there. And I think this will be like very valuable going forward also when we see this type of behavior for the new games from the developers. So yeah, I don't know what your take is on that whole situation, but I'm really not so fond of seeing all these price increases, to be honest. So yeah, there was another update also for Exodus, but looking at the time, I will be honest, I'm not going to go through the entire vid here, but I just wanted to highlight, as I mentioned before, that Shinobi was making a good summary of it. So there is the founders Q&A for Exodus that was released yesterday. It is a 15 minutes vid, so you can watch it. I will also link it below in the description. And there's a lot of new information there. And from the information that he summarized, I will also link that below. I think there are some interesting things which he's mentioning. We did discuss already the time dilation, and I think the important bit here is that the players should have enough time to get attached to their homeworld and characters. So we're going to see a lot of the gameplay taking place, let's say, very localized, and maybe with not such huge time jumps. But then there is also mentioned that there will be also quests which will be in far off distant star systems, and that's when we will already see the impacts of that time dilation. So I'm sure that it will be very variable in terms of how you play your game, in terms of like what impacts you will see in your game and what outcomes, because you could make more missions that are in far off distant systems, and then more time will pass than if you're doing, let's say, missions in the local area, let me put it that way. It is an interesting concept for sure. What I did like here was that there will be an awakened companion, which is a sentient independent animal. I think they have shown the piggy already in the introduction of these awakened companions. The question is if it will be our companion as well, or if it will be a different animal. I'm wondering. So that's an interesting question here. And I like this one. So it's a classic hero's journey where you start out in humble beginnings and then you are like destined for something greater, or you feel you are destined for something greater and build a better life. And that's when you are starting to venture out a little bit more and, and encounter the hostile forces. So it is really very similar to Mass Effect 1. They are also mentioning it that it will be having an overall structure similar to Mass Effect 1. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And what is there as well, what I wanted to mention, let me just quickly go through that. Oh yeah, there are large celestial civilizations, the Crown Dominion and the Marayama, which are the two largest, and then there are many subspecies of changelings. But for me, that also means the Crown Dominion, the Celestials, let's say they do have different types of technology. They are way more advanced than the humans, and it will definitely not be nice when you encounter those, I'm pretty sure, and if you encounter them as an enemy. But what I am pretty sure will be really bad was if you encounter the Marayama. I'm not sure if you have seen the video about those, but those are like absolutely scary. And I am hoping that we can avoid those, to be honest. So those are like the boogeyman of the game for me, at least for the moment, from what I have seen. So yeah, that's one of the interesting bits. Then there are things which are related a little bit more like to the gameplay system. Here the mention of the dynasties. So there is a system developed by travelers, basically people who share your beliefs, share your systems, are loyal to you. I think that's important. Who can you leave behind on your home world? So when you return years or decades later, things have progressed the way you have envisioned. So I think it will be very important also to, let's say, gather the right people around you and like connect with the people on your home world. So that will be an important part, I think. And what is also important here, I think, is this: the rot is a powerful phenomenon that affects celestial tech, makes it degrade, break down, and malfunction. Origins are very mysterious, unknowable, will slowly destroy your homeworld if you don't find a way to save it. So I think this will be one of the main quest lines to be able to stop it, at least, or find a way how to deal with it. And that's a good hint here. And this one is very important, and I wanted to mention it. I think the replayability will be huge. There are outcomes that only a small percentage of players will likely discover depending on how they play. And Drew Karpyshyn is saying there definitely will be things as a player where you think you've played the whole game and then you find out that your friend had something very different. Or you'll go online and you'll see and you'll say, oh my god, I didn't even think that was possible. And that is something which is for me an added value to the game at this point. So we should get a game that has many different outcomes, at least from what they are saying. Now, the question is, and I don't want to be like too negative or something, but we have heard already something similar, for example, about Mass Effect 3, that you will get different outcomes, and then the different outcomes was just, the color of the ending, which was basically almost the same. I hope here that they really play around with the game and the gameplay and make sure that you really have a very, very different outcomes. It was something similar already, for example, in Witcher 3, where you had technically different outcomes with Ciri, for example, and how it also then ended for Geralt. It wasn't necessarily such a big difference, at least for me, in terms of like Geralt or Ciri themselves, but if you connected all the other information, so when you were looking at how, I don't know, Nilfgaard has ended, or Temeria, or what happened to Radovid, etc. So it all had very different impacts. So you really could get very different endings in terms of the state of the world, not necessarily your main character or Ciri, but the state of the world. So this is something where I think it will be very similar to let's say, to these levels of the outcome of the game. At least I'm hoping for that one, because it really gives you a huge replayability. So that much for the summary for the Exodus game. I will be honest, I do not really want to make that many vids about it, because I am really tight on time, honestly, and I would rather focus on certain games where I think people are interested in those. And I have to say, Exodus is already covered by a lot of other channels and quite in depth. So I do believe that there is, let's say, enough channels you can go to if you want to like see an in-depth discussion about Exodus. I will be definitely buying the game and playing it when it comes out, so that much is sure, unless we get some huge red flags, but I don't see the potential currently for that. But I will probably not do like regular updates for that, to be honest. Maybe I will mention it here on live streams as I'm doing now, but I just simply don't really have the time to be all over the place and devote my time to 100 different games. It's just not possible, even though I would love to, because it's a very interesting game and very Mass Effect-y. So yeah, I definitely look forward to it, but just FYI, I will probably not be making any like extra content regarding Exodus. Let me see what you are writing. Louis is saying, don't even get me started on Warcraft 3. John is saying, like the Oregon Trail game, you died eaten by Marayama. And Louis is saying the different outcomes sound lovely, but I'm reminded of the Dragon's Dogma 2 Sphinx situation, where it was much less creative than what the devs advertised. And internet spoiled everything away. And anyway, yeah. And John is saying, so far Larian's Baldur's Gate 3 is the champion of vastly different outcomes. Yes, sometimes we really do get like games which are fulfilling that promise, let me put it that way. So I'm really hoping that we will be getting here these different outcomes, especially when I consider that we have Drew Karpyshyn working on the game, who's really an outstanding writer. So I really hope that they will consider all of this really in the game, and we do get something more than just 3 different colors like it was in Mass Effect 3. So yeah, I do hope that this will be like having a big replayability. So basically that would be it. I have one last thing which I wanted to show you, because that one is actually quite fun. I always try to end the stream on a fun note. So let me show you something. I'm not sure if you know it or not, but if you don't, it's quite fun. I will show you some of the bits, at least like 1 or 2. There's this YouTube channel, but I actually found them first on Facebook, so I'm following them on Facebook, not necessarily here on YouTube. But there is a guy who has this dog, and they had a great idea of making a couple of vids like with the dog eating different things. And as you can see, the dog is basically dressed, and he's like, I don't know, underneath or behind the dog, and he's like using his arms to make it look like it's the dog's arms. And let me just show you some of the stuff, because I have a good laugh every time when I see this. The eyes of the dog are just awesome. That facial expression. look on the face. I don't want to know how their kitchen looks like after filming this video, because they always throw everything to the back. So yeah, that was one of them. But there are more, and I honestly have to laugh every time when I see this. That little hat. It's a very patient dog. The side look. And the sound. Okay, so it's a bit of a longer video, but you're getting the point here, right? So there's a ton of videos. Some are shorter, some are longer. If you want some fun and if you want to show it to somebody else, like, go ahead. I will also post the link in the description, but the dog is awesome. I think it's great, like the facial expressions, and then, like I said, the dog is it has to be very well trained, and it seems to be very, very patient, because sometimes the guy is waving his hands around really a lot and the dog's like not even moving. My dogs would be like moving all the time when you wave with your hands in front of their face. So the dog is the perfect dog for this type of videos, to be honest. Okay, let me see what you are writing. Alois is saying, yeah, this one's a classic. Good. Guys, I hope you did have fun with this last bit. And I hope it was good to see. I am always, like, as I said, trying to pull something like from the net, which is quite funny to watch. And yeah, you may want to share as well to somebody else. So I hope you did like the stream. From my side, it would be all for this time. I do hope that you liked it. And I also do hope that you liked the other bits that I was posting lately. Let me know in the comments if there is something where you think that I could do it a little bit differently or better, or if you liked it or whatever. I know that you are definitely posting, or some of you are definitely posting some of the comments, and I really appreciate them a lot. So I wanted to thank you as well on this spot for, always being there, and for commenting, and for, exchanging your thoughts with me in the comment section. It's really great to see the feedback and see your takes as well on some of the stuff. So I wanted to thank you all also on this spot. And also from my side here, because as I said, it's Easter holiday, so I wish you really great Easter holidays if you are celebrating them, and a nice time off. And if you're only having a weekend and not necessarily celebrate the Easters, then at least I wish you a wonderful weekend at this point. So thanks a lot for being here. Lois is writing, thanks for the Witcher news. I feel informed. Thank you too. Thanks a lot. And then I hopefully see you next month again. And in the meantime, I will be making some hopefully interesting bits for you. So thanks a lot for being here. Thank you for watching, and have fun over the weekend. Bye.